Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide on how to make Maelle from Clair Obscur Expedition 33 in Baldur's Gate 3. The Burning Canvas build we'll call it because there is a actual mod here that lets you play as Maelle from Expedition 33. This is made by Beat Around My Bush and it's available on Mod.io or Nexus mods. I'm also using mods here, the Clair Obscur at Home by Aeroless is called Clair in the Mod.io version. There's also the Set Astarian's Expedition 33 heads. I'm just using Shadowheart's head here, but look at these, seriously incredible stuff. And there's also a Mantis collab here, which adds in Gustav as well as Lune. And finally, we also are using Tep Kunset's Expedition hairs to get this on Shadowheart to kind of look like Maelle here. Now, I apologize. I was requested to do this build months and months ago, and I've been thinking it over for quite some time, but I got something here that I think works very well. We'll be using a rapier, obviously, for our weapon, but there's actually a new subclass that works very well that patch 8 added here with the Bladesinging Wizard, and this is going to be a multi-class video here. But the reason we're going with the Wizard is we need to have some fire spells, we need to have some debuffs, and the Wizard gives us the largest spell book to play with. Now, this lets us also get our defensive stance here. Now, we can't really get stances, but the reason I was going Bladesinging is this gives us a stance. We also got Blade Ward for our defensive stance, and we can also grab Firebolt to apply burned on the target as well. Booming Blade is our Stendhal, a very high damage cantrip that just is busted and kind of crazy that it's in the game, similar to Stendhal. And for the spells, we're obviously going to grab Burning Hands. It makes sense, the Burning Canvas here with all the fire damage we got. Chromatic Orb gives us another fire damage spell, which sets up a surface. Expeditious Retreat, I feel like it fits thematically here, as well as the shield spell, kind of adding on to that defensive stance alongside Mage Armor, and the magic is Missile. Now, if we had some more debuff spells, we'd be grabbing those, but yeah, that's what we got. And for our ability score, we're going to put everything into our might. I mean, we're actually going to put it into our intelligence and dexterity here. 16 dex, 16 intelligence, 14 constitution. You can swap dex and con if you prefer. And upon hitting level 2, this is when we get to choose the subclass here. And this is what we're going to go with, the Bladesinging Wizard. This lets us cast spells from our sword and kind of gives us that stance here with our blade song. So you can think of this as like our virtuoso stance. So this gives a +2 to armor class, increased movement speed, advantage in acrobatics, and +2 to con saves. This will scale up to a +4 later on in the game. We also get to take a couple more spells here. And the next spells we can take, Tash's Hideous Laughter and Grease. These can both make the target go prone. We don't have Marked in this game. That's kind of the closest thing that we can go with. Alternatively, Protection from Evil and Good's more defensive stance focused, and the Long Strider here, which is just a nice spell to have in general. For the Bladesinging weapon, obviously a rapier here, but if you do have that Duelist class mod I was talking about here, but you can actually get a bunch of weapons themed like the weapons from Expedition 33. So yeah, I will be doing a video where I touch on that mod because it's seriously incredible, and here's all the other outfits. And into level 3 here, we get access to some better spells. We're obviously going to take Scorching Ray, going with that fire theme here. If you have Mistress spells installed, Agonizer, Scorcher, and even the Dragon's Breath can be nice additional fire spells to add here. Again, we don't have Marked, but Hold Person kind of fills that role because it's going to give us critical hits, which is insanely good. So yeah, I would take this just to be able to set up. It just makes this much more powerful and fits thematically. Now, we're going to prepare the following spells here. Make sure you have Shield on because that's just, again, our defensive stance. And it's nice to have Mage Armor if you don't have any option for Armored there, as we only really got Light Armor protection. Level 4, however, gives us our first feat. We also can take another cantrip here with things like Bone Chill, kind of be a nice stopping targets from receiving healing. We already have the fire-based spells. You could take Green Flame Blade if you're using mods, but other than that, there's nothing else that fits super thematically. You could even grab a Mage Hand and pretend it's SKA. But for our next level spell here, Mirror Image further enhances our defensive state that we got, so we may as well take this to further boost that up. And another cool thing is Misty Step can kind of be like our Phantom Strike, which you can just kind of role play in your head. It's a bonus action, so it doesn't interrupt our attack and lets us get in close to an enemy. So that can give us another skill that Maelle has in Expedition 33. And I'd recommend preparing the following here. And for the first feat, Alert for the +5 to initiative is usually good. As damage dealer, you want to go first. You could alternatively go with a dexterity increase, but we're going to go with the Alert. Even an intelligence increase can be great. And Savage Attacker as well. Level 5 gives us a counter spell here. So this is, again, going into our shell here, now boosting up some defensive abilities. And Fireball just obviously fits thematically. This can be your Pyrolyze or your Phoenix Flame type attacks. Rain of Fire, Floret Fury, whatever you want to call it. I would recommend preparing that. And also preparing Counterspell is, yeah, that's something that we just want to have for our team's protection. Level 6 gives us that extra attack, so we're now going to be doing a lot more damage. We can also grab a Glyph of Warding Fire. This again fits into the theme of this build. I like Lightning Bolt, but it doesn't fit thematically. We could use something like Bestow Curse. It's kind of funny. Normally this spell's not one you'd normally take, but it applies a debuff, which could be kind of like the Marked. But again, we have Hold Person, which fits that role. If you really want to do Stendhal levels of damage, Shadow Blade would be a great choice. But I'm going to grab Haste here, as this will enhance our attacks. Puts us in an offensive stance or virtuose stance, so we'll grab that. And we'll keep these spells as such. I like to throw on Glyph of Warding. If you're playing as a half-elf like Shadow Art here, you can drop the Glyph of Sleep at your feet, and then it sets a Marked on all the enemies nearby. Level 7, this gives us we can take a Fire Elemental here and pretend it's Eskia or Minoko, but we also get a Fire Shield and Wall of Fire, which are the two that I'd probably recommend for the thematic purposes of this build. Odaluk's Resilience Sphere is also kind of like the shield spell, or being able to apply a shield onto an enemy, so this could work as well, but I think going with the full fire theming just makes the most sense here. And yeah, it's just nice to be able to set up somewhat of a crowd control with Wall of Fire. Level 8 gives us another choice in our spells here, and I like Greater Invisibility, although it doesn't fully fit thematically. We can just go with our original idea here of the Odaluk's Resilience Sphere for our blocking shield. And Banishment, this can be like a Gamage. It kind of has a similar action as it does in Expedition 33, so you know what, we'll take it there. You can also learn spells from scrolls if there's something else that you wanted to take. We'll prepare Banishment because it's a fun spell. It doesn't get often used. And at this point, we'll actually boost up our intelligence here so we have a better time landing our spells, although a dexterity increase could work too. Level 9 gives us our... I'm tempted to take Cone of Cold, even though there's no really cold damage. There are some cold weapons for Maelle, but it's just a good spell to have in a close range, where we should probably just go with a fire-based elemental and feel like that's more thematic, and hold Monster, even though I love Cone of Cold. It's like the first time I've never just didn't take it, but we'll prepare those two spells. Hold Monster is really great in the late game. Being able to apply Marked on a boss is amazing. Level 10 gives us a Song of Defense. This further enhances our defensive stance here, so we can use spell slots to protect ourselves, reducing the damage by 5 times the spell level. We can then go ahead with our final cantrip here. Nothing really fits super well, so like you could go with like the Dancing Lights or Light. Produce Flame would have been cool to get, but the wizard doesn't get access to it. And then for our next level spell, I mean, Dominate Person kind of fits with the Maelle ending of the game, so we could go with that by nature, Planar Binding as well. I, again, love Cone of Cold, but it doesn't, like, Maelle doesn't have any abilities that fit that. So the final list of spells we'll go with, I'd probably throw on Dominate Person there, and we'll go with the following here, mostly focused on the fire damage. We also have things like Fire Shield that we want. Now, I thought about continuing with the wizard. Like, this does give you, like, Chain Lightning, although she does not have any abilities like that. I was thinking of grabbing Globe of Invulnerability, but we can get this another way. So my actual thought process here is Maelle is a high damage character, so it's befitting to give her one of the highest damage options in the game by adding in the Paladin. The reason we're going with Paladin is Divine Smite can get even higher spell slots from the wizard. We keep our level 6 spell slots, so we can still learn Globe of Invulnerability and drop down our defensive stance for our team. But the Paladin will give us those Divine Smites, which make this very strong. So we can add the 4th level spell slot version and make our Rapier Blades hit like a Stendhal. And I'd personally recommend going with the Oath of Vengeance here, getting Inquisitor's Might, which this will end up changing our spells save around. So you could start with the Paladin and multiclass into the Wizard. You don't even have to do this. You could stick with the full Wizard here. But I think adding in Divine Smite makes us not just a great spellcaster, but a great melee. Because, yeah, 2d8 of damage on a level 1 spell slot, and this will scale up even further, is insane. It also gives us a fighting style, which we can take our defensive stance here, and then go ahead with, I like the command spell, but we're obviously not going to be landing that too much. The big thing here is getting Searing Smite for the thematic purpose. Don't use it unless you really want to, but this is our Fleuret Fury, which will put us into our Virtuose stance. You could also, actually, I love command, but it's not going to land, so we may as well grab Shield of Faith for a further enhanced defensive stance. So we actually have a lot going into our defense stance and offensive Virtuose stance. And I already showed off the equipment mods that are used, so you can go ahead and download those. It's available on Maelle or Nexus, and go play Expedition 33 as well. And I gotta say, Shadowheart looking like Maelle actually does kind of look like Maelle. I did edit and add freckles. That's the only real change that I made from Shadowheart, so yeah. Sorry folks, Jay from the future here. My entire PC crashed and I cannot make Shadowheart back into Maelle, so I apologize. I spent the last hour trying to get this to work, so my bad. All right, so for gear, we're obviously going with that fire theme. So we have lots of great fire and other focuses here that just make a lot of sense for Maelle. Now, had a fire cutie, one of the best, especially whenever you got a Scorching Ray style build going. So basically, we boost up our spell save every time we cast a fire spell with a level 4 Scorching Ray and being able to max it out at a +10, which then makes it easier for us to land Hold Person and Hold Monster, which marks the enemies, which gives us extra damage. Now, we're going with a debuffing style build because that's something that's heavy in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I actually think it fits well here because radiant damage is burning, and burning canvas, it all kind of ties together, so I like to go with the Radiating Orb build here, which will reduce the enemy's attack rolls, which is kind of like applying Powerless on them in a sense. So this will do it whenever we're illuminated, we cast a spell. This will do it on all of our attack damage, an extra 2 points, but if we have Radiant Smites, we can also add even further. We also then have Luminous Gloves there, which further adds that on. And the Boots of Stormy Clamor, so we can give them Reverberation, which will knock them prone. And again, kind of like a marked setting. So yeah, we have all this together, which will just chain and give us a bunch of conditions on the enemy. If you're able to apply Bane as well, that's a kind of cool ability, or a cool thematic approach. I'm going with the Robe of the Weave, although in the early game, the Protectee Sparks Wall would be your best choice here, because that's obviously just a really, there's not a lot of options for clothing in the early game, and this one will give you a bonus to your spell save and to your armor class if you have lightning charges. Not thematic, but it's really all you got at that point. You could alternatively use like the Helldusk armor if you're able to get something like that. And if you went with the Paladin a little bit earlier, you can grab medium armor proficiency and heavy armor proficiency even for the Adamantine armor. But I think the Robe of the Weave just ended up being best, and if you're able to dye it, you can use the Shard dye here, which will give you somewhat of an appearance of the, if you squint your eyes, you can see that a purple and black kind of looks thematic. So again, that's the Shard from the Faerun colors, very fitting for Shadowheart there. I'm also rolling with the Surgeon Subjugation Amulet. Whenever you get a critical hit, you can give Paralyze on the enemy, which is like marking them. So pretty cool, marking shots. Alternatively, the Amulet of Greater Health obviously being very powerful. And for our weapon, the Infernal Rapier makes the most sense here. It's kind of like a fire-themed rapier. It also gives you a Cambi in here, which is nice. You can summon an SKA. But what it lacks is the power of having the offhand free. Like, typically, if you're going to run with this, you'd probably want to throw Belm on to give yourself an extra bonus action attack, which is nice, but it doesn't fit thematically here. So what I think works best is the Duelist Prerogative once you get to the late game. This will give it so that you get increased critical hit chance, another reaction. This reaction's huge. That means 2 counter spells. So we're not just great offensively, we're good defensive too. And you can deal additional necrotic damage on your attacks, so you can paint them. This all works together to be a very powerful, not just a fire damage caster, but also a melee attacker. Now, we can get our armor class up a little bit higher using mage armor, and then also our defensive stance mirror image there, so that can get that up even higher. I think this looks awesome, though, because we cast with our sword, so we can do some pretty silly stuff here. It just looks awesome. And we can get into our offensive stance by getting someone to apply haste onto us, or we can apply it ourselves, so that puts us in offensive stance. We can get into our defensive stance using mirror image here, and Virtuose stance is just literally the Booming Blade cantrip. It's just that good. Seriously, it's insane they added a cantrip that counts as a weapon attack that does an additional 5d8 of damage. That's kind of nuts, and it has a free ability. So yeah, the first thing that we want to do is we want to debuff the enemy with Marked if we can. We can do that by using our Scorching Shots here to give ourselves that boost to our spell saves, so then we can land our Hold Persons. It's typically the way that I'd go about doing this, and I prefer upcasting it and trying to get a target to hit targets that it's going to land on, because if we're able to land our shots, that means that we're going to get that spell save DC buff, which we desperately want. But obviously prior to, I should have attacked that one there a bit more. We applied Radiating Orbs on the target, so it's 8 stacks, 2 stacks on that one, and this one has 8 stacks as well. But our big thing is we now have the +10 Arcane Acuity. So when we look at our spell save DC, it's now 27 and 23 for Paladin. I also, when I had to respec the character, I started with the Paladin there, so it switches it over to Intelligence. But yeah, we also have our Blade Song. I should mention that. We should go into our Blade Song, which is going to further boost up our armor class. That takes us up to 24 when we're hasted with Blade Song. And if we were to throw on the good old-fashioned Mirror Image, that takes up to 33. So defensive stance, we're strong. Now that we got the high spell save DC, my recommendation is to go ahead with Hold Person. And I'd honestly recommend upcasting this just because it's such an effective spell. 99% hit chances on pretty much everybody here. And we're going to lock it down on one last target that could screw us up back there. Boom, we got it. We got our Marked off, which actually this is more so like a break. So we just did the gradient break there. I also have in the offhand the Handfire Crossbow and also the Near Misser there for force damage. Just nice to give a bonus action attack, but we do have, obviously with this blade, the Dueler's Enthusiasm, which does let us do an actual attack. What's great about this is you're going to see we can get some pretty solid damage off, crit, and since you can turn on Divine Smites and everything, but What we're going to do with this is look at the health area of 40 health left, so we may as well use like a level 3 spell slot. 49 took them out perfect, so didn't really need to do that because they're in hold person, but yeah. You can also go ahead here and turn on Divine Smites as a reaction so that our normal attacks will just trigger the Divine Smite. So be mindful not to turn on the high level ones because it's going to burn through your spell slots really quickly. Now, if we're about to get attacked, we can go into our defense stance here with Shield. It'll increase our armor class by 5 for the whole turn. And if we don't want to, we can also use a Song of Defense, which won't eat our reaction. I typically like to save the reaction, even though we have 2 of them. Counterspell is just something that we definitely want to have on the ready because that's going to be the thing that saves our team. And this is what we save our reaction for, is if you need to stop a spell, we're not just going to let that one go ahead. But into our next turn, we could go and Booming Blade these targets here that are hit, but we could also just go ahead with the targets that are free because those ones are likely just going to stay in their spot. Booming Blade is just such a powerful ability, so we can go ahead there. That wasn't enough to take them out, oddly enough, but we can then complement that with a good old-fashioned Divine Smite. 1 health left. Oh my goodness. That's just, that's unfortunate, but we'll run away. We'll leave that be. We'll then focus on Divine Smiting this target with a higher level spell slot. And we'll go with the level 3. I don't want to let anything happen that could potentially... Oh, wow, we didn't finish them off. We have the Withering Cut here, which does additional 4 necrotic damage. Not enough to trigger that. If you have Call the Weak, that could be a good way to be able to trigger that. But, yeah, we're in a weird spot right now because I have 2 targets with very low health that I should have finished off. But you could use a Bladesong Climax there. It's not really the best choice. We get our bonus action, Duelist Enthusiasm. So when you use it on this target here, oh my goodness, they're not having a really good turn. I could use Scorching Ray shot from the gun or just a regular Scorching Ray. We're in a really weird spot here because I need to deal damage and take these 2 targets out, but I may as well probably just use the Magic Missile from our gun here to be able to at least hit 2 targets and then guarantee we'll take out this one behind me. The Radiant damage was enough to finish them off, so burn them. And we have an issue. We got attacked a few times, so our spell save DC actually dropped. And this target got out of our command. So what we got to do is put them back in jail by taking them out. Damage. Enough radiating orders, -10 to their attack rolls. Wasn't enough to finish them off, but we got our +10 to spell save DC back, so that's great. If I had enough room to move back there, I would go ahead with attacking, but we got to continue moving forwards. There's 3 targets here and this one right here that I do want to get rid of. Fireball would be a good one. You can use this as your like combustion, pyrolyze kind of spell. And we can actually hit all 4 of them in a single fireball, so we'll relaunch it there. That was enough to take out a few more targets, and then we still have that one there in the, they're still locked up. We can go into our defensive stance here, since there's actually not going to break the concentration for Shield of Faith. We can, however, get our bonus action attack off on this target, who is very likely to miss. Oh, goodness, we're very likely to miss, too. Some things never change, Shadowheart. Hopefully they... Yeah, there's Casting Crusader's Mantle. That was a choice. That means that we can Booming Blade, so yeah, we'll take them out this way. Boom. That was enough to finish them off. Oh, that was enough. Cool. We don't have to use the Withering Cut. If they have 4 health or less, that's the only time, really, that Withering Cut is worth using. Unless you got Call the Weak, and then you have to think about the threshold for activating that. 1 target left. We may as well just finish them off with a puny little Fleuret Fury Fire Bolt. And they'll probably take them out. There we go. So, yeah, that is the Maelle build for Baldur's Gate 3. I almost said Divinity Original Sin 2. Yeah, this is a build that I've been meaning to do for a while now, and finally got around to doing it as I've been testing out a few different ideas. But big fan of Expedition 33. Go play it if you haven't already. I beat it the week it came out. Seriously phenomenal game. This released a free DLC too, so the perfect time to play it is now. And I hope you guys all enjoy this video. Hit the subscribe if you haven't before, and I hope you guys will have a great day. Catch you in the next one.